What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So the NHL season kicks off tomorrow, less than 24 hours away over in Prague with the Devils versus Sabres. And I have given like basically every single possible prediction for the 2024-2025 season. But one thing that I kind of wanted to do a prediction video on before this start of this season is the Four Nations face-off. Because when looking at it, that's only 4.5 months away. That is in mid-February, the first time that we're getting best on best international hockey since what, the World Cup in 2016. So I thought that it'd be a fun idea to kind of predict, give my updated roster predictions before the start of the season. I'm clearly going to give another like prediction once we're December, January, right before they announce the actual team and we have 30 or 40 NHL games to go off. Based on that, I have not done a Four Nations face-off. I did an Olympic prediction back in like February or March of 2024 when they announced they were going back to the Olympic Games. But heading into next season, obviously the Olympics aren't for another year and a half, so it's a little bit different. Heading into next season, what would my four teams be in terms of US, Canada, Finland, and Sweden? We're going to go through it right now. I'm just going to flash the roster and then kind of break it down. I'm not going to like go like line by line, pair by pair. We're going to go through this because previously I've done a video for each nation. We're going to do all four here. We are going to do all four right here. And up first is the United States. When looking at it, this is a pretty goddamn good and especially balanced team throughout. There's no weaknesses with this goddamn team. Up first for that first line, Austin Matthews is clearly going to be your number one center. Matthew Tkachuk is pretty easily the best winger on this team. And I decided to go with Clayton Keller. This is going to be, I'm going to factor in some chemistry. I'm going to factor in fits within these lines. It's not just going to be the three best players on the first line, 4 through 6 on the second line. And when looking at Clayton Keller, amazing playmaker. I think in a more so smaller, speedier guy, I think matching him with the Matthews and a Matthew could make a lot of sense. Not saying Clayton Keller is the third best forward on this goddamn team. For that second line, you got Jack Hughes, so skilled, so speedy, as well as a goal scorer like Jake Gensel and kind of a physical, just great forward in JT Miller that can play up and down the lineup in fantasy. I think for the last couple of years, he's had left wing, center, right wing eligibility. He's kind of just a Swiss Army knife for this team and is definitely going to make this team. On that third line, Jason Robertson, Jack Eichel on your third line is absolutely disgusting. And then I went with another goal scorer in Tage Thompson. And then that last line, I was thinking more so defensive with a guy like Matthew Boldy that has been so good defensively for the Minnesota Wild. Dylan Larkin, great offensively as well. Gives you like 35, 45, but also amazing defensively. And then Brady Tkachuk to just absolutely beat the shit out of the opponent. In terms of the defense, the first pair and the second pair is like, they're equal in my opinion. I put Fox on the first pair, kind of piss off Canucks fans, but they're equal. This is an amazing top four for the Americans. When looking at it, Slavin lockdown defensively, Fox great both ways. Hughes amazing offensively, very good defensively. Then he's got a right-handed defenseman partner in Charlie McAvoy that's maybe a little bit more so defensive and physical. And then lastly for that pair, Jake Sanderson, I think he's going to have a big year, very good both ways, as well as John Carlson, more so a veteran guy. This is going to be a very young United States team. And also still a very good offensive defenseman. Connor Hellebuck, without a doubt, heading into this season, is the front runner to be the starter for the Team USA, considering the fact that he won the Vezina yet again last season. The playoffs, it's a little bit of a concern. I could see you going with a guy like Jeremy Swayman, considering how good he was in the playoffs. But right now, I think you'd have to give it to Connor Hellebuck. And in terms of my other extras, Vincent Trocheck, ideal guy for your bottom six on this loaded of a team. Kyle Connor, not in my actual lineup. Just because, again, I'm thinking more so fit. He's a great offensive player, but we have within that top six even better offensive players, and you got to start thinking more so two-way guys. I think Kyle Connor's a better player than Matthew Boldy, but I'd rather have Matthew Boldy in a bottom six two-way role than, say, a Kyle Connor that is known to not be playing defense. Zach Werenski, in terms of that seventh defenseman, you could throw him there for Jake Sanderson. I just think Sanderson's really going to pop this season. And then Jeremy Swayman as your third goaltender. Again, the goalies are so goddamn loaded. You're not even bringing Jake Gottinger, who I think is a little bit overrated, but still a consensus top 12 goalie in the entire NHL. Going over the Team Finland, when looking at it, they have four really, really goddamn elite forwards in Barkov, Aho, Hintz, and Rantanen. In terms of that first line, I think you throw Lehkonen with those two other studs, considering the fact, obviously, the Rantanen and Lehkonen connection. On that second line, another connection, Teuvo Teravainen, Sebastian Aho. Granlund was 60 points in 69 games last season. Great Malott. I think he had like 60, or he had like 55 assists. He was great. Michelli on that third line. I think Michelli is kind of a passing guy to Line A, assuming Line A is healthy. Could be great. Rupe Hintz as your third line center is pretty goddamn disgusting. And then that bottom line, kind of okay, perfectly solid. They don't have a ton of forward depth. They don't have a ton of defenseman depth, as you see with that decor. After Miro Heiskanen, it falls off a decent amount. I think your top pair is without a doubt Heiskanen and Lindell. They used to play together. Valimaki's a little bit underrated, and Nico Mikkola was pretty massive for the Florida Panthers in their Stanley Cup run. Rasmus Ristolainen, Henry Yukiharu is not very good in terms of a bottom pair, especially when you look at the United States, Sweden, or Canada. And then in net, Juuse Saros can make up for a lot of that. I think he's going to have a great season. If you've seen my other prediction videos, he's my Vezina pick next season. UPL is a very solid backup. In terms of extras, Brad Lambert, I think he's going to play a decent role in the Winnipeg Jets this year and be pretty good. He was around like point per game in the AHL last season. Kakaniemi doesn't really wow me that much. I could see him easily being that fourth line center ahead of Lundell. Olimata, perfectly fine number 7 defenseman, might even be better than Ristolainen and Yukiharu. And then Capo Kakinen as your third goaltender. No Capo Kakko, I'm sorry. I think Brad Lambert's going to be better right off the rip. Kakaniemi, even though he's not that good, is better right now. Hall is better. Tolvanen's better. I do not have Capo Kakko on this team. He needs to show up and earn his spot on this potential team heading into next season. Sweden, when looking at Sweden, very damn good team. I'm going to be honest. I think that they're definitely closer to US, Canada than to Finland, in my opinion, when looking at this forward core. The top line, I think that's kind of set in stone. That's by far your best center, by far your best right wing, and by far your best left wing. Second line, still you got a guy like Bratt that was above a point per game. So Benajad is hopefully going to bounce back this season, especially 5-on-5. And Adrian Kempe has been around 35-ish goals in your point per game the last 2 seasons. That third line is very interesting with Joel Eriksson, a guy that I think is very underrated, is my Selke pick next season. And then you move Carlson up more so to the wing, and you have Lucas Raymond, the future of Team Sweden. And then that bottom line, I'm just thinking more so a defensive fourth line that can kind of shut down opponents in terms of Lindholm. If he has a bounce back season, Backlund, not the most flashy player, but around 35 to 40 points, amazing defensively. And William Karlsson was extremely underrated last year, having 30 goals, 30 assists for 60 points in 70 games, and is always amazing defensively. The defense, it's tough. You only have 2 legit right-handed defensemen in Rasmus Andersson and Erik Karlsson. So I had to put Forsling on the right side. You got to make it work. Their next right-handed defenseman is not very good, and you have to have a guy like Lindholm on the bench. But yeah, Rasmus Dahlin, Rasmus Andersson, Rasmus squared as the top pair. Ekholm, Karlsson, I think that pair would absolutely cook. Let Karlsson do his offensive wonders, and you have Matthias Ekholm locking down defensively. Hedman and Forsling, the 2 Florida number 1 defensemen on the same pair, would be very interesting. And then in terms of in net, Linus Ullmark has been about as consistent as it gets in the last 3 to 4 years. Markstrom, inconsistent, but when he's on, he is absolutely on. In terms of extras, I could definitely see William Eklund beating out one of the older guys on that fourth line for a roster spot. The guy had 45 points at 21 years old. Gustav Nyquist had 75 points. Not sure he's going to put up that same production this year when they bring in guys like Marchessault and Stamkos. Hampus Lindholm, again, the fact that he's their number 7 defenseman, amazing. And then I got Philip Gustafsson as their third goaltender. Could be Wallstead, could be Sam Ersson. I just went with Philip Gustafsson, who had that amazing season in 2023 and hopefully can get back on track for the Minnesota Wild this season. And then lastly, we got Canada. When looking at Canada, I think that top line just makes too much sense in terms of the fact that I know you don't want to build around Zach Hyman, but Connor McDavid is so good with Zach Hyman. Zach Hyman has played with Mitch Marner. Zach Hyman deserves a spot on this team. And I think if you're thinking about chemistry, you don't have to put McDavid with Crosby, with McKinnon, with Bedard. Bedard's not going to be that next level next season, but I don't think that you need to stack a line of Crosby, McDavid, and McKinnon. You put McDavid on that top line with a guy that he's familiar with and just a fantastic 2-way right winger in Mitch Marner. Second line is more so of an offensive line. Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, both of the Nova Scotia boys, as well as Connor McDavid, I think is going to take a massive step this season. That third line, more so of a defensive line that can still obviously score a ton of goals when they can get Braden Point. The dude has hit 50 in his career, as well as Sam Reinhart. Brad Marchand, maybe not the same player that he was 3 seasons ago, but still around the 70-point 2-way demon. Bottom line, also fantastic defensively. Mark Stone, I know he's a right wing, but I threw him here at left wing just because he's been too... When he's healthy, he is fantastic. I know that if he's healthy for this tournament, I think he makes the team easy. There's a chance that he's already on his LTIR break by this tournament. But yeah, Nick Suzuki as your fourth line shutdown center, and Matt Barzal, another very good 2-way speedy guy. In terms of the defense, you don't touch Taze and Makar. Is Taze the second best defenseman on this team? Honestly, possibly, I'm going to be honest. But when looking at it, you have to stick them together. They have been together for the last 3 years. You keep that intact. Josh Morrissey, Evan Bouchard. although they're both two offensive defensemen, I think that you can just make it work. I think they're good enough. And Canada doesn't really have a ton of high-end defensive defensemen. Again, they're still good both ways. But then that fourth pair, I got Vince Dunn, who I'm decently high on, and Noah Dobson. I would probably have Drew Doughty in for Noah Dobson just because he is more so of a two-way kind of defensive guy. But the fact that he's 2 to 3 months with this ankle injury, most likely, that suggests that he's hopefully going to be healthy for this tournament, but we're not sure what kind of form he's going to be in. So I decided to err on the side of caution in terms of going with a guy like Noah Dobson that is coming off a 24-year-old season. He had 70 goddamn points. In terms of in net, I went with Jordan Binghamton just because he does have that experience in terms of winning a Stanley Cup. Aiden Hill as well. And then for the extras, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. You can insert him on that top line or something like that, like they do in Edmonton. Ryan O'Reilly, just a veteran guy that still put up like 70 goddamn points last year and was great defensively. Shea Theodore as the seventh defenseman. You could also go with the Dougie Hamilton. Just got to see how he looks after he comes back from his injury last season. And then Stuart Skinner in net. You can flip-flop all the goalies that you want. In terms of that, the three, they're pretty interchangeable in my opinion, but this is my team Canada. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about this? We'll go through it yet again. The U.S., really no weaknesses. Maybe doesn't have a McDavid or a McKinnon like Canada. Finland, they have high-end forwards. That defense core is very shaky, though, but they got a top 6 goalie in Saros. Team Sweden, very well-balanced, in my opinion. Honestly, probably clearly the third best team in this goddamn tournament, but would not shock me if they win it. And then lastly, we got Team Canada. High-end talent. The goalies are a little bit suspect. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about these projected rosters? Again, I'll do this once we're 30 games into the season, right before the teams get selected. It's going to be a fantastic tournament. I'm so excited for it. Thank God it's going down in Montreal and Boston. I almost said Montreal. Boston, I will definitely be attending some of those games. Let me know if you are as well. I'll be seeing you in the next one.